Hello, welcome along to Sportsbet TV with Paul Alster here with your weekend selections for Saturday the 18th of September, where we're looking forward to some marvellous racing across Britain and Ireland. If you are new to this service, if you stumbled across us or if you've been recommended, then do press the subscribe button just below the screen so you'll be able to follow all my selections. They're all offered free, and we've been doing tremendously well since we set up the service in the summer of 2020. And last weekend was a case in point because we had an absolute cracking result. I hope you were all on in the Group 1 Matron Stakes over in Ireland. I tipped you the horse No Speak Alexander, and she put up a great performance, staying on really well in the closing stages, edging a little bit left, but staying on really strongly under Shane Foley. And she took the matron at odds of 25 to 1. There won't be too many tipsters tipping up 25 to 1 winners. I promise you that, but that's what you got here. And of course, it's not the first time we've put up big winners, very big winners in the past. So that was a really welcome big winner. And of course, with that in the bag, we're already guaranteed a profit for this month, as we had last month, of course. After that very successful Ebor fixture, including 9 to 1 winner Winter Power and 16 to 1 winner Flaming Rib. So great to see No Speak Alexander win, and all the theories I had about why it could reverse placings with horses that have finished in front of it proved to be spot on this occasion. Let's hope they'll be spot on for this weekend as well. If you're not sure about betting these big each way prices that I'm suggesting, well, I'm also offering my thoughts at freebets.com on the YouTube channels there. And that's for horses more to the head of the market. So if you're looking for one at a more standard price, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1, those type of odds, those are the horses I'm focusing on at freebets.com. But here at Sportsbet TV, my first selection on Saturday is a tough race. The Ayr 230 is the 6 furlong Silver Cup handicap. It is the consolation for the Gold Cup at Ayr, which is coming up later on in the afternoon. Now, this bulletin is being recorded Friday lunchtime, so we haven't seen the Bronze Cup on Friday, so we don't know if there's any sort of a draw bias. So if there is what appears to be a marked draw bias, then obviously you'll use your own judgment and factor that into calculations. But for the Silver Cup, it's Black Rod that is favourite at around 11 to 2, and he's on a hat-trick after wins at Newmarket and York. The yard also have Woven, who's not without a shout either. Kevin Ryan, who's a trainer I much admire, he won this race last year with Magical Spirit, who tries again. He hasn't won since, but he's run some good races, including at Ascot, and he's a horse who won't be too far away. He might be the preferred of the 4 Kevin Ryan runners in the race. Another trainer with 4 runners is another Yorkshire-based handler, Tim Easterby. He saddles 4, and they include the 2019 winner of this race, Golden Apollo, who's running fairly well of late. But my preference is for a horse called Music Society, who is trained by Tim Easterby, and is the mount of Ella McCain, who claims £5. Ella, of course, the daughter of Donald McCain and the granddaughter of Red Rum's trainer, the late great Ginger McCain. So she's bred in the purple as far as jockeys are concerned, and she's proving to be very talented indeed. And her £5 claim is a significant factor in my choice here. Now, Music Society is another horse who has gone well over this course and distance in the past. He won the Bronze Cup at the 2019 fixture almost exactly 2 years ago off a mark of 81. He did win at Pontefract in June to show that he's still retaining his form, and he's been running very well in defeat since then, including failing by just a nose to beat Comanche Falls at Hamilton in July. And of course, that form franked again by Comanche Falls, going on amongst other things, to win the Stewards' Cup. Now, Music Society went on to finish second in a very hot York handicap off 86 in July. Then he was 4th in the consolation race for the Stewards Cup, the Stewards Sprint, where he raced almost on his own wide of the field because of his draw. And he was 4th of 25 overall, so it was a big effort behind Mr. Wagyu. And then he was a solid 8th last time out in the Great St. Wilfred Handicap at Ripon, again drawn on the wrong side, but finishing 2nd of the group over on the far side. It was a better run than the bare figures would suggest, and he's been dropped a pound to 89. And with Ella's £5 claim down to 84, I think Music Society can go well. Now, he's drawn in stall 18, which is centred at stand side. I think that might not be a bad draw. So I'm quite happy to take a chance on Music Society, who early on was 16 to 1. He's now down to 14 to 1, and that is beginning to go. And the 14 to 1 is available each way for 6 places with the likes of William Hill, Sky Bet, Unibet, Betfred, and Boyle Sports. So that's 14 to 1 each way for 6 places. Music Society at Ayr in the 2:30, the Silver Cup on Saturday. Now, I take you on to Newbury for my second selection, another very good card on Saturday, the 3:25 race. This is a 1.25 mile handicap, 11 runners. The going is good to soft. And that just reminds me, actually, as far as just going back to Ayr, they're forecasting good to firm, but there's rain on the way. If the rain hits, it could easily change the ground. That will not be a hindrance, I don't believe, to Music Society. So keep an eye as well on any changes in the ground. Newbury is forecast good to soft, and this 1.25 mile handicap, for which 11 run, the 3:25, sees a lot of unexposed and progressive handicappers. Now, they include a horse trained by William Haggers called Aramaic, and William won this race 12 months ago with Il Arab, who proved himself a very useful performer. Now, this Aramaic is on a hat-trick after wins in a Musselburgh Maiden and then in a York 1.25 mile handicap of 87 last time out, where he was pretty impressive. Now, he's gone up £7 and he's feared. He could easily be still a step or two ahead of the handicapper. We'll find out on Saturday. Now, another interesting runner is called King of Clubs, trained by Hughie Morrison. Now, this one is very consistent horse. He's always there or thereabouts and is improving. He's gone up a total of £11 this season. His latest win, he won a Sandown 1.25 mile handicap, just nosing out Victory Chimes. And actually, I think he's been quite badly done to there, because he's been put up £7 for winning by a nose. But he clearly is holding his form. And then we've got a real puzzle of a horse called Moasis, trained by Saeed bin Saror for Godolphin, of course. 3 runs and 2 wins are on the all-weather at Kempton over a mile. And he's making his handicap bow off 93, switching back to turf. He's bi-pivotal, so of course, as we know, pivotals like a bit of dig underfoot. And again, it could be anything, we just don't know. But a horse really caught my eye recently called Injazam. This is a horse who I think is going to run really well. Now, he's trained by Charlie Fellows, and is the man of Callum Shepherd, a jockey who has had his ups and downs. He's been in trouble here and there, but he looks to have got his act together, and he does have plenty of talent, Callum Shepherd. Now, this Injazam is by Night of Thunder and is out of a 1 3 furlong French winner, so he's bred for the part. Now, he's a very lightly raced horse, just the 4 runs, 3rd on his debut at Newmarket's May meeting in a mile novice stakes to a useful horse called D-Rab. He was then beaten at odds on. His only disappointing run came at Carlisle, but he was slowly away that day and raced wide of the field, kept on, but I think you can forget that run in a 9 furlong maiden. He then went up to a 1.25 mile at Nottingham, where he ran in a novice stakes on good ground, and he was a bit keen early on, and he could easily have burnt himself out, but surprisingly, he had plenty left at the business end of the race and ran on well to win nicely. And then he won really nicely last time out at Newcastle on the all-weather, over a 1.25 miles off a mark of 85 on handicap bow. He made all the running and he ran on really well. But the noticeable thing about this horse was that he shows a really high knee action, which looked rather unusual on the all-weather. He was pounding the ground there. It looked rather ungainly. This is a horse who's crying out to run on soft ground. And I think if there is rain on top of the good to soft at Newbury, that will help him. Now, in that race, last time out, the third place horse, Chichester, went on to win yesterday, a good handicap at the Ayr Western meeting. So the form has been franked. And I think that this horse for Charlie Fellows, 7-1 each way for 4 places with Skybed and William Hill, I think he's going to run really well. So that's my selection, Newbury 325. I think he's a horse who is still improving. And in a race of improvers, I'm hoping he just about comes out on top. Now, my third selection for Saturday is in the Ayr Gold Cup. I certainly have picked a few really tough races, but that's why we're getting decent each way odds, of course. Now, it's the Ayr Gold Cup, one of the great sprint handicaps of the season. There will be 24 runners because we already know that Chief of Chiefs is an absentee. Now, there are so many really tremendous horses in this race that you can make out a case for them, and the quality is just so high that when you take into account Summergand, who's an old favourite of mine, is running off 112 and he's top weight, and the bottom weight is rated 96. So also a very good handicapper, Count Dorsey. It shows that these are all real quality 6 furlong horses. Now, of course, the draw could play a part, and by Saturday afternoon, having seen the Bronze Cup Friday afternoon and the Silver Cup earlier on Saturday, we might note a discernible draw bias. But at the time of this recording, Friday lunchtime, we're in the dark. Could the rain arrive? If it does, I think that will also have an impact. Now, I've made up a short list of horses here, which include the favourite Great Ambassador, who is so progressive and could easily be a proper group performer this season. He's been hugely impressive since running so well when we tipped him in the Stewards Cup. He's won at Newmarket and York impressively on both occasions. He's drawn in 1 and drawn in 2 right next to him. Over on the far side is Comanche Falls, who of course won over course and distance in April, and he went on to win the Stewards Cup off a £17 higher mark at the end of July, early August. So a horse who's been running superbly well and is getting better and better. Now, Gulliver, good old Gulliver, ran really well in Ireland in a red-hot handicap last weekend. He wouldn't be without a chance of finally getting his head in front in a big handicap. And you've got an interesting one here, Snazzy Jazzy for Lawrence Mulroney, who won the Silver Cup in 2018 for Clive Cox. And he's hinted that he could be on his way back. And another one of interest, Count Dorsey for Tim Easterby, the horse who's scraped in right at the bottom of the weights. He stayed on well when he was third in the Portland Handicap last week at Doncaster. So another one that I was considering. But in the end, after giving it a lot of consideration, I've come up with Bielsa, trained by Kevin Ryan and the Mount of Kevin Stott. Now, this horse is drawn right under the stands rails in 25. Now, some of you will probably throw your hands up in the air and think, what on earth is he doing? Well, they're going to split into 2, maybe 3 groups. It's always good to have a rail to run against. And the stand side has done well on occasions in recent years. Indeed, 2 years ago, the winner came from stall 24. In fact, last year, the winner was in the centre in stall 13. Then in 2019, stall 24. You may remember in 2018, there was a dead heat. And they were between 2 fairly highly drawn horses in 17 and 21. On the previous year, 2017, the winner came from the other side in stall 4. So I'm prepared to take a chance that Bielsa in 25 is going to go really well. And this is a horse who is still lightly raced. He's only run 15 times and he's won 4 of them. And he was actually 9th of the 24 runners in this very race behind Nahar last year, 12 months ago, off a mark of 99. And on that occasion, he raced almost on his own on the stand side. And it's very hard for a horse to race on its own in a big handicap. And he did that, and he was still bang there, possibly even marginally in front of furlong out. Eventually, he was beaten 3 lengths. And it's hard to know what sort of a disadvantage he was at on his own on the stand side. It was a massive run. Now, this year, He came back to Ayr over the course of the distance, was second to Comanche Falls, who of course went on to win the Stewards Cup. And he was actually giving Comanche Falls £12. And that was a big effort, a really big effort. He then was beaten a nose in a solid race at Haydock in May. He went on to finish 8th in a 7 furlong handicap at Royal Ascot, but he didn't stay that 7th furlong, having been banged there a furlong out. And then he went to the Stewards Cup last time out, and he was 6th behind his old rival Comanche Falls. And again, he was racing on his own. And he's just been a little unlucky with the draw, this horse. But I'm hoping that the draw this time might prove to be favourable. Now, what's interesting here, and the reason that's persuaded me to recommend him, is that also drawn on the stand side, just 2 horses inside of him, is a horse called Sunday Sovereign, who's in the same ownership. And I think that one will give him a lead. I think it'll give him a lead. It's trained by Tim Easterby, that's Sunday Sovereign. Also on the stand side is Summergown, who tends to be a bit slowly away, but he'll be running on, which might just carry Bielsa forward towards the line. And there's another horse called Above, who's drawn in 24, who tends to show early pace. And I can see him helping tow things along. So Bielsa is my choice. He was 14 and 16 to 1 on Thursday, 12 to 1 early on Friday. That's gone. I think people are beginning to latch on to Bielsa, not just because they're Leeds United supporters like me, come on the mighty whites, but because this horse has a lot going for him if the draw doesn't prove to be a disadvantage. And at 11 to 1 each way now, at the time of this recording, and remember, try and bet with a firm that will give you the SP if it proves to be bigger, because that could make a difference. Horses very often drift in these big handicaps late on as bookmakers try and get money if there's been a few decent results earlier in the day. He's 11 to 1 each way for 7 places with Sky Bet, bless them. So Bielsa's the choice to win the Ayr Gold Cup, the 340 at Ayr. And then my last selection, and this one is one really out of the scale, really, because I doubt any of you will have looked at this horse wherever you've been looking at your racing on Saturday. I'm taking you to Navan, to the 5:10 race, which is a bumper. And I can't remember the last time I tipped a horse in a bumper. This is a 2-mile race, 20 runners, some of them unraced, and some of them have run between the flags, but not under rules. Now, as ever in Irish bumpers, Willie Mullins is likely to be holding a bit of a strong hand in the market, and he has a horse called Dad's Lad. Now, it's shown ability, but this horse has been beaten 3 times when favourite in recent runs, including twice at odds on, so I just can't have it. I think it's a bookie's horse, this Dad's Lad. Now, there are 2 horses making their debut under rules. One is trained by the back into the fray, Gordon Elliott, and it's called Ted Hastings. And it won a point-to-point. It's only started a point-to-point, and it was bought for 68,000 quid. So it must look the part, and it's already shown ability, so it could be useful. And then Gavin Cromwell has got one called Connor Cottage, who ran second on its only start in a point-to-point at Punchestown, and was bought for £52,000. So that's decent money out of the point-to-point field. Now, there's a trainer called Owen Griffin, who's got a horse called One Last Tango, ridden by the very capable young amateur Harry Swan, who, of course, is son of the great Charlie Swan. And this one was second both at Kilbeggan and Killarney of late, on both occasions beaten less than a length. And Margaret Mullins, who often can produce a decent bumper horse, has got a horse that was third at Tremor called Cool Og. So those are all horses that are likely to figure in the market. But I watch racing in Ireland regularly. I broadcast on it a few times a week. And there was a horse that ran really well in a bumper first time out before fading in the closing stages. A horse called, a great name this, Chuffer Dandridge. Chuffer Dandridge is trained by Brendan Duke and the mount of Finian Maguire. Now, Brendan Duke, who owns this horse, is one of the great characters of Irish racing. He's very extrovert. He owns this horse, he bred it, and he trains it. Happily, he doesn't ride it because he's of a certain age and of a certain size. And this is a horse by So You Think, who, of course, was a tremendous flat horse. The dam was a 7 furlong winner and is from the family of the Derby winner Harzand, So this horse is really bred for the flat. Now, he ran in the race in which One Last Tango was second at Killarney last month. Now, One Last Tango had a few runs, so he had experience on his side. He finished second to a horse called San Salvador. But in that race, I'm watching this, and San Salvador travels very smoothly through into the lead, I'd say about 2.5 furlongs out. But heading the chasing pack and still running well on debut is Chuffer Dandridge. And Chuffer was really running well before just getting tired at the furlong pole, from where he wasn't knocked about by his young amateur rider, who was a Mr. P. Harty, who I don't know particularly well. Now, for me, it is very significant that Brendan Duke, who doesn't train many runs, has reached out to Finian Maguire, who's one of Ireland's top amateur jockeys, to take the ride. Finian Maguire, of course, the son of the great jumped jockey Adrian Maguire, who won a Gold Cup on cool ground. Amongst others, he rode Viking Flagship and all those great horses. Well, his boy, Finian Maguire, is a red-hot jockey. So I just think this horse has got a big chance because, and I think he'll be overpriced because of the yard. Now, when I was looking at this, I kind of estimated, because there are no prices available at the time of this recording, I originally estimated 10 to 1. Then I saw Timeform had put out their view on the race, and they forecasted at 40 to 1 bar. So I think that's way off the mark, frankly. I think they've missed a trick. But I'm going to suggest 16 to 1 each way as an estimated price for Chuffer Dandridge. And if there's any money, that won't be a bad thing, because that would just back up the fact that this horse probably has a bit of ability. And if it was with a bigger yard, it would be half whatever odds it's going to be. So Chuffer Dandridge to run a really big race each way. Navan 5:10 is the last of my 4 selections for this Saturday. Be lovely to have another big winner, as we did last week with our 25 to 1 shot, No Speak Alexander. Let's hope they run well. Remember as well, if you're interested in shorter priced horses, check me out at freebets.com, freebets.com on YouTube. But for now, from me, Paul Alster here at Sportsbet TV, thanks very much for joining me. And remember to tell all your friends about us. I'll be back next week with more tips for the weekend action. Bye-bye for now.